Okay, we're back. It's been a couple of weeks. Had a couple of customer projects, and then I was sick all last week. But we need to finish this stupid thing. I was playing with it in this park fork jig thing I have. I'm not happy with it. I need to actually play with it. Not like when I'm trying to get work done and frustrated. So this is the fork off the Raleigh Competition, Reynolds 531, like by 1973. And I started sanding to see how far the chrome goes up. The chrome goes up too far, so I had to go, I can see I got through it a little bit right there. So if I kept sanding on this one for 20 minutes with hand sandpaper, I'd probably get through this chrome. That sucks. So I went and bought this crappy Harbor Freight fake Dynafile. It's a sandpaper on little blade thing, so I can just go and just clean it up. So we're going to use this guy. Rust that chrome off when you braze, because welding on chrome is toxic. It makes deadly toxic vapors. You will die of cancer. Don't do it. I got a few other things. I didn't do a Sunday salvage, so I was sick. But I did go, and I got this super cute little arbor press. It's a number 0. It seems kind of small, but it was like 30 bucks on the old internet. So it was out by the steel yard. This is not the one from the photo. And I was like, hey, which one from the photo? I was like, I don't know. I've never seen that one. What are you talking about? This is the one. Okay. 30 bucks on the steel yard, and I spent another $0. Had a bunch of rude, annoying customers there, and I was waiting patiently out of the way. I waited for like 10 minutes. And finally, I was like, what can I help you with? And I was like, oh, I'm just getting these pieces of scrap metal. It's like 7 pounds. They charge like 60 cents a pound or something. He's like, oh, for that, Merry Christmas. You just have it. So happy. But this thing may be good for here. You need something to press against with these things sometimes. Just a big, ridiculous block of steel. Or maybe use it for something else. I don't know. It was so big and ridiculous. And then this I got for the little tube notcher for the drill press. So what I'm going to do is cut this in a couple short pieces and braze this on each side of the thing. It's got a dumb little clamp thing that holds the tube. It always dents skinny tubes. It's just friction. So weld these on both sides to make nice little V-blocks to clamp the tube. And I'll probably JB weld it and put some little leather in there, make it a little nice little pad. And I'll probably use this for some other stuff. Put it with my awesome scrap steel pile. And this came in the mail. So I found this on the frame builder list on Facebook. It is a 60-pound plate of steel that's been machined perfectly flat on the top. And this giant, like 6-pound block of aluminum, which has been bored out to 1 inch. It has 3 bolts to pinch it down to hold forks in place so it can align forks. My Brunelli alignment table, the old one that I bought 10 years ago, it came with one of these blocks. It was very annoying to bolt it on. You can see there's 2 holes in the alignment table still. These holes are at the same spot, so I could bolt this on there. I also have a friend who's a machinist who offered to machine me something. I bought a block. I found one of these blocks for $47 on eBay. I'm gonna look around so we can find a better deal someplace. I'll probably buy one of his blocks and see if he has it, if he can machine it to 1 1/8, and then just use some shims with inch forks. Maybe that won't drive me nuts. The Brunelli style one's a V block, so we can kind of pinch any size tubes. It can be on top and be on bottom. But they slipped real bad, and you got to switch to 4 bolts. You got to really over tighten them. So he's had this machine to actually round. It's really way tighter and better. Do the 1 1/8 block, see if it works on that alignment table with shims and see if it drives me nuts. And then if it does work perfectly, I might just sell this, or I might just keep it around and have 2 separate ones. Why not? I just paid, this thing was on sale for so cheap. It was 140 bucks. Outrageously cheap. Shipping was 165 bucks. So I'm gonna do it like 305. If this was on my local Craigslist for 3 or even 4, I would have bought it. I want something better. That park tool is driving me nuts. I don't trust it. Every time I took this thing out and put it back in, it measured totally different again. I want something solid, stable. So let's put some junky screws down into the table for now, and we are going to do a little fork aligning. This bad boy slides. Oh yeah, it's so tight. This thing is a precision machine. It doesn't even like this paint. This paint on it is causing real problems. Oh my god. I can see the joy of the V-block is once you loosen the bolt. It is loosey-goosey's. Ah! It's like, nah, bro. This thing's precision machine. That paint is too thick, bro. It's too thick. Just sand all this paint off real quick. It's always something, you know? It is always something. It's just some crappy free aluminum soft jaws I got somewhere. Just gonna stick this thing in real lightly. I don't actually want to damage the blades or the crown. I want it to not move or move a lot. I should just take the torch to it and burn it off real quick. Come on, man. In theory, that's most of it, and plenty. Theory. So precise. Not getting it in all the way. You can see it's just like I got like an inch of the sear sticking out. The trick is you want to get these guys flat. This tool sticks out pretty far. So I'm going to touch I should probably use something better. I don't have something better. I need a giant one of these machinist squares. I don't have one yet. I got the super cheapo aluminum one. Have to do for now. So I'm going to, it's flat against the table, come up and touch the blade and turn it until the blades touch on both sides. You can check with the crown too to make sure it's straight. I want this thing perfectly parallel to this flat surface. And then we are going to tighten it down. And luckily these bolts are metric, the bottom ones are not for reasons. Machinists who make bike tools like to not make things metric. That first one's loose again. I'm not going crazy. I'm going back and forth and doing them all a couple of times, not over tightening, just making sure they're snug. Hoping this fork won't move. Now we'll take this tool, it's all machine flat. This is all 90 degrees. So what I like to do is center it on the steer tube. This thing's real cool. You can center it on the steer tube or the seat tube, and you can come measure dropouts. So we're centering it. That has dropped too much. Come on, up. Come on. Yeah, move. Centered. Tightening all these knobs. Stay centered. Stay centered. I'm going to come slider into the old dropouts. Ha! That park tool saying this thing was like 3 millimeters off again. This is saying I am spot on from lining up the park tool. You're right at a hundo. It's touching here and here just perfectly, barely kissing. Also going to use this guy again to go into the dropouts. I can see that the center of the dropouts touch here and here, and they do not. This one's way off. Whew. That's what the park tool was telling me. This thing was off. I was trying to bend it. I didn't want to bend the way I wanted to bend. Probably to go the wrong way. I'm also touching at the face of the dropouts. So as an example, here is a new old stock can't be dropout, not brazed anything. I'm trying to touch this so the ruler is touching the left dropout and the right dropout right in the center, and also put it up against each side. Should be touching both dropouts on that top face, touching both dropouts on the bottom face, and that's how we know if this thing is straight. It is not. So this blade is farther forward by 3 or 4 millimeters, and it is also down by 3 or 4 millimeters. So in theory, this blade probably won't have to go back. I think I was trying to pull this blade to try and get more rake. It's not how you rake things. Let's try and just give this a push instead. Now it's not move. Now some bikes just move like scary easy. Some bikes will not move at all until it's too late. They move way too far. But one of you is gonna move. This block is moving, so I don't have, it's standard. I took all my standard Allen's home, so it's not super tight. Come on, I know that move. Real close now. Let's see, maybe 1 millimeter, 2 millimeters off. Dropouts don't align at all. One more little tug. Don't break. Oh. Here's paint flexing. Oh, as I just did, not paying attention to something about the video, the paint, I just pulled this back the wrong direction. Oh my God. Oh my God. This is so fun when it works great, and so stressful when it's being a total brat and not working at all. Oh, nailed it. They're both touching. Dropouts are not. That's a weird trip. Oh, the front is. Huh. So the center is touching. Front of the dropouts are touching. How is that even possible? In the back or not at all? How is that possible? I think this thing's not heavy or straight enough to be accurate. Yeah, it's lying. I'm pushing down real hard. It's trying to lie to me and just bend and go where I want. It is saying, in the other video I was talking about how I think this thing might not have matching rake. Like, I might physically need to just barely rake one of these blades ever so slightly to actually get this thing to line up. And if I did that, I want to pull this one forward, just raise it. And right now, I think I might have to. Does the blade be slightly unraked? Is that a thing? I'm going to trust this tool. You can always put the tool up against this square. More or less. If I rake the blade, I can't unrake it, but I can always rake the other one a little bit to make it match if I change my mind and decide that was wrong. So it is lower. It could also be lower if it's bent at the crown, the whole crown or steerer is bent. Something worth looking at. The daylight at the top and bottom of the crown looks fine. This dropout is touching at the bottom, not at the top. Let's try the front of the dropout. Same thing, so this is saying this blade's more this way anyways. Well, if I come in here, it's kind of telling me the opposite. Also, whoever made this fork from the factory could have been slightly crooked. It's real normal. Sometimes to get the wheel to sit straight, file a half millimeter, a millimeter out of one side, or add a little bit of brass to one side, then file it. Get the wheel straight when everything else is pretty close. You don't want to futz with anything else, just because these dropouts a little closer. So, you know, nothing's perfect. Yeah, this is crazy. It's like trying to tell me this one is so much farther forward. I don't know, let's add some rake and see if it wrecks something. Or maybe I'm missing something, or maybe I should align a different fork that's not insane. Get my mojo back. This is my first one in years, and it's definitely been an extra super pain. So I'm gonna rake this blade. I'm gonna mark it with the Sharpie so I don't, you know, rake the other one instead or do something silly. It's easy to get turned around discombobulated and moving parts up and down and back and forth and right and left. Another way to check forks alignment is on I usually do it like off the edge of a glass table or something. Of course I bolt this on so I can't do it on here. You can come and just drop from the crown on a flat surface and drop the blades on a flat surface, have it hanging out. It's a little longer. I could do it off my real alignment table. I don't know, it's saying it's straight. Other thing you can do is take a wheel that you know is round and true, drop the fork on it, and see if Push the fork all the way down, top the quick release, and see if the wheel looks straight. Well, it does. It really kind of does. All right, next thing we can do, maybe it's just the dropouts being horrifically out of alignment. I think I did try to line the dropouts in the last video like a fool. Gotta do things in the right order. I don't have enough room in here. Need to hook off right here. Yes, okay. Well, they're definitely not very aligned. Could this change it? I've seen unaligned dropouts make the fork look super crooked when they're not. Kind of eyeball this with the crown. See, it's looking pretty straight. Pretty straight. Wheel check again. Looking down the steer, pushing down. Steer, looking like the rib on the front of the tire, right on the center line of this tire. Sure looks right on the center of the steer. You can look between here and here. Measure between here. Now it looks like it might be sitting slightly crooked to me. That's what I wanted to see. It was freaking me out to look straight, but no, it's not. Take some calipers, this guy down, tighten the wheel, we can lock it in place. Look down this way, see if the crown looks parallel with the wheel. Hold it out like this, is the brake hole. It's maybe very slightly, that looks like so slightly off. I'm going to measure between the blade and the wheel. I like to measure outside to outside, it's easier to do. It's like a mil gap, so the wheel really does need to go this way, like a half a millimeter. Like a half. So go this way a half a millimeter. I would need to file a very slight bit out of this dropout. So the whole fork can sit down, which lets the whole thing go. Or I could add a little, this dropout is chrome, so I can't add. It is so close, this is probably, you know, how the factory had it. It is probably doesn't matter at all. Also, there can also sometimes just be like a slight burr or damage from over tightening it with a track axle or something. Or there can be some dirt in there. There's like one little tiny half millimeter thick piece of dirt in there to make the wheels sit crooked. This is my long alignment table. So I'll do that here. I'm going to hang this crown off the table, flat on the crown, pushing down here, and the dropouts aren't bouncing. So the blade, if this thing was actually bent, you sit flat on the crown, be touching one dropout, the other one being ting, ting, ting. So this thing is straight. We're stuck in the wheel, so we know it's straight. We know the spacing's 100. We know it's even. Maybe it needs to come up or down a little bit. Maybe that pushing, I might have bent this thing a little left or right. So let's check it one more time. Make sure neither one of these blades is out, up or down. Come back and double check that this thing is centered. It's touching top and bottom in that V. It is centered. How is my spacing? My spacing is still right at 100. I'm saying this fork is aligned. It's good enough. It's just the scary part of fighting it in 2 or 3 planes. It's fighting it the blade, it's fighting it the dropouts being crooked, the blade being crooked, fearing the crown or something else more crooked. Now this fork has one other seriously horrible defect. I don't know if you can see, but this is just filed flat for, you know, a flat tooth French style lock ring, and there's a crack all the way up this flatness. And the crack is on the inside too. The right way to stop a crack is to come right below it and drill a hole so that it can stress relieve into that hole, and then come back and weld this whole thing up. Otherwise this fork is toast. Or I could do something a little more complicated where I could come down pretty low below where the stem's going to be and cut this in half. Make sure it's perfectly flat. Take a new chunk of steerer, come up, put a little internal sleeve in there to make sure it holds it perfectly straight, like a nice little wedge of tube that goes half inside this and half inside the new one, and then braze that all together. Usually drill a couple holes in it too, so I can make sure the silver flows and pulls, and it's got to be low enough so you can still get the stem the full depth in. So that's for a little more serious things. If you're trying to save the paint, want to do stuff up here, trying to lengthen a steerer tube, or you know, whatever. If you got some vintagey fork for a really rare bike and a really rare frame that's too big, you can do that. If these threads are all mangled. But I kind of want to do something crazy I've never done before, and so we might end up doing that maybe tomorrow. I could just drill that out. I could cut this whole crack all the way through and then come in here and brass it. Brass will not stick to stainless, so I put a 22-2, like a stem-sized piece of stainless in here. I could come in here and just fill it full of brass, no problem, file it flush. It won't go on stainless, the stainless will come right out, it won't make a big mess on the inside after file. See if I do something crazy with my MiG welder, which is an electric welder. You pull the trigger and it wire feeds the shielding gas. MiG will not stick to copper. And so I could go get a 22-2 piece of copper or plumber's elbow, or bend a little scrap of copper and put it in here, and take my electric welder and just bzz, 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 bzz with solid steel, and then file it out. That'd be a little bit more work, and it's a little less frame buildering. Maybe I will just brass this, it'd be fine. I've had customers like destroy the threads on their fork, and I've just filled them full of brass and ran the die over them, and they rode them for years and years and years and years and never damaged them again. Brass is shockingly almost as strong as steel. It's a little scary, and I should probably do it first, but I'm not gonna. Let's take the rest of this chrome off and braze these dudes on. I'm gonna stick this dummy axle in. I don't want this fork blade's moving anywhere now that we just cleaned them up. We're brazing at 260, so I want like at least an inch in every direction from 260. Let's make some new marks. Oh, I've got to buy better tape measures. Why am I such a cheapskate? 260. Drawing on a Sharpie all the way around here so I know right where my 260 is. And that's axle center line. So at the center of where I'm going to put these candy bosses. Drawing it way too far so I can really see where it is, really focus on this chrome. I want to not come any lower than where I already have it scratched up, so I'm going to make a little squiggly line. Like, hey, don't take off any more chrome, dum-dum. The top doesn't really matter, but make a squiggly line just so I don't waste more time. So you can see my beautiful markings, my 260 line and some squiggly lines top and bottom. Say, hey, don't go farther than that, dum-dum. I need to get a real respirator. I just got this shitty dust mask. It's totally cool. Oh, that's not cool. Alright, I haven't used this one ever before, and I haven't used one like it in a long time. Move this thing for some better angles. We're hoping we're getting through the chrome. It's real impossible to tell. Like a dust mask to make everything impossible. Come on. You can definitely tell I missed a spot there because my Sharpie line's there. So I'm going to come in, find the right angle, and clean that up. This thing's cutting pretty fast, so I'm really moving it as fast as I can because I don't want to make any low spots or dig into the blade. Just trying to get the finish. I bet it's taking it right off. If you really want to tell, get a little salt and a little water, mist this thing down, or rub some salt water on here. Salt water makes metal rust super fast. Just like a light surface rust, scan it right off. It's not going to do any damage. That way you can see all the bare metal is going to turn instantly kind of orangey red, where the chrome will not. So really let you know. All right, just a little bit more. This chrome is just a little thin surface coating, kind of like paint. Now good chrome is usually triple chrome plated, so it's dipped in, it's polished, it's dipped in brass, it's polished, it's dipped in brass, it's polished. Then it's dipped in nickel, which is the silver. Then it's dipped in chrome, which is really just a clear coat. So sometimes you're sanding stuff and see right through the layers. You can get down to the brass, and then get down to the steel again and really know where you are. I think you can tell. I think the chrome, the nickel is like a little bit duller of a color than this bright silver. I definitely dug in a tiniest little bit in one spot. We definitely threw everything there. And we're just sanding the paper, and the papers let me know I didn't really dig it anywhere else. And it looked really rough. It's pretty smooth, and the light goes over it. Doesn't look like gravel. This looks a little less so. I feel like I can see a little bit of the chrome. Just a little bit of a duller matter. Bronzier silver underneath this, on top of the steel. It's not really coming out with this sandpaper. Maybe I'll hit it again. I'll hit it again just a little bit. I'm glad I bought this tool. It's looking pretty good. Oh yeah, you get down here, you can really see the difference in the chrome. Almost just like peeling paint. All right. Let's braze these candy bosses on. I don't know if this will show up on camera at all, but this is a great example. You can see from here, this is my shiny steel I just sanded. And right here, there's even a rough edge like Chet paint. That's definitely the chrome layer. It's got a different finish, it sits up higher. This side I just looked at's even better. You can see this is a real dull bronzy silver where the chrome is. And it goes into pretty all silver bare steel. You can see it in the light just a little bit. I can see the gold stuff around the outside. It's one little strip right there of gold stuff I should probably take off. Just one little line. I had decided, I had looked at these a few days ago. We hadn't figured out which ones would be the best, and now I don't remember. I'm shooting for about 80 mils, which is so wide. Oh no, that's center to center. All right, we're definitely using the center ones. Lol. All right. Jig goes clampity clamp on this 110 dummy axle. In theory, it's got a line. I can set it right at 260. Theory, that will be 260. Let's grab some braze-ons. Here's a set of braze-ons. These things are never the same. I want to get the closest ones possible. Well, they sure look pretty dang close. Sometimes I've seen these things millimeters and millimeters off. Why am I filing? Why am I fighting them so much? Oh, they don't match at all. It's pretty close. So these things are cut with a round, like mitering bit. These blades are oval. So they move around a lot. I don't like it. I can move them all the way over, so I get like half or 3/4 of it touching. That'd probably be fine. Fill the rest with brass. Probably be fine. But what I'll most likely do is just miter the middle down a little bit with a rat tail. See if I can get these things pretty oval shaped. It's an old tubing block I have. It holds these things about perfect. I'm pretty into it. Rat tail file right down the middle. Straight back and forth. Wind it up out of the valley a little bit once in a while. Try to make this thing round into an oval. And it's easy to file one side more than the other and do weird stuff, so we're going to check it once in a while. Let's say this is why most normal braze-ons I just slap on there and braze, but you know, they're brake bosses. I want it to be better. I don't want it to ever break. I want it to be a nice miter, get as much brass in there as possible. Maybe even bigger, fatter baby. Yeah. Even more. Just creeping up on it because I don't want to, you know, take it down too much and cause myself a problem. keep making these things shorter and shorter and shorter until they don't fit at all, which is about where I'm at. The tiniest little bit of daylight. I think it's just on the inside. Got it mitered. Compare the unmitered one to the mitered one. You can see it's like so much more oval, deeper. And now it fits almost perfect. So one little high spot probably right there. I can see it. This will be perfect. I'm going to touch that with the file once. I'm going to clean this up with sandpaper. It is ready to go. So nice. I'm just going to do the same thing to the other side. I was just going to skip ahead and go to the other one, not recorded at all. But I got this, big giant Harbor Freight rat tail, and I had to start with it. Didn't even start the little one. And this thing cut like perfectly. I was like, I'm just going to start with it because the one's so close and blah, blah, blah. This thing, like, I first try to hold it up. I'm like, it's already cut to depth. It's already 99% of the miters there. I'm like, oh. So I say this all the time in my frame building videos, but like, don't go spend hundreds of dollars on fancy files and blah, blah, blah. Just go to Harbor Freight. I've had a few Nicholsons and stuff, and they're super nice. I always prefer my super cheap Harbor Freight files, and they'll last frames and frames and frames. And like $18. Ah, yeah, this one is perfect. No other file, not touching with anything else. Perfect. I'm gonna hit that first one more time. Try and make it as good as the other one. This definitely has one little high spot somewhere. And I'm taking off the little sides and the paper thin spots because they'll just get red hot and burn the flux and not help. And then I'm just going to wrap it in some emery cloth just for a little final cleanup. It's smooth. Also going to take the emery cloth on the edge of a small rat tail file. Give it the go once before and just make sure the inside's clean. So I want to build those nice internal fillets for strength. Why wouldn't I clean those too? Just a little bit. There's any giant burrs on the outside. You can take the little flat file and just flatly clean off the outside. Same thing, I'll wrap it in sandpaper and just clean off any burrs or high spots. Using the file as a nice stiff back, and then we can also come along and do the actual polish. So it's clean enough for brass. If we were doing silver, I would also rubbing alcohol it. Boom, these guys are ready to brass up. I did get something special. I got some M6 by 20 stain on my shirt. Wing nuts. These are stainless steel threaded wing nuts just for stuff like this. I got some, I think I'll work my disc brake jig too. Pull these regular old M6s out. Let's try these winger dingers. So I'm gonna put the candy boss in and roll this wing nut in. Probably a little smaller, probably cut these down to like 16 mil. This one I got just barely tight. This one will leave a little bit loose in case it's got to flop up or down. Sometimes things just aren't the way you want them to be. Get them nice and centered, then we gotta tighten these ones that lock them down. I wish I could do wing nuts for both, but I can't. Maybe I should just do the wing nuts for these inner ones, honestly. The other ones gotta get adjusted. I'm making sure that they are nice, tight, no daylight, no daylight. Holding the braze on where we want it, or as close as possible. Cool. Go cool, we can lock this thing in. Now this thing's kind of up and down. Flux this all up and get it brassed in. Brazing flux. Put a little on these blades. This protects the weld and lets the brass flow around so it's getting burnt and dirty and refusing to move. So let it go where we want it to go. Anywhere there's flux, the brass can't go. Anywhere there's not flux, the brass will not go. But a little bit on the inside because I want those little internal fillets. A little bit on the outside just because. A couple of short sticks of brass. You can clean them with rubbing alcohol or clean them with a little sandpaper, but Scotch-Brite's kind of the easiest way of being. Bring it back down. Turn the gas on. I like to get it right between this and super smoky, so it's where the tip's not going super nuts anymore. Cut the oxygen to make the flame hot. I'm looking for about a 1/4 inch little blue cone at the very tip, very hot. With silver, I do the same thing, but less gas, and look for about 1.5 inches. Okay, that's not normal. Issues? This little hose is so flimsy, I'm always stepping on it, I'm so afraid I'm gonna damage it. Sometimes I adjust this gas, then it adjusts itself in. I think that's what happened. It needs a few seconds to equalize. I cut this cone way too long. I bet a minute into brazing, it's going to be right where I want it. Yeah, it's probably fine. It's got a little split things, a little bit of dirt on the tip. That's normal. I don't like it. Sometimes once I get brazing, I'll knock the tip against something, try to knock that burr off instead of pulling it apart and clean it. It's also freezing in here, so I'm just going to fog this stupid mask up. I hate it, but it's the best solution I've found so far. What I'm doing is slowly heating the area. I'm going to try to get all the water out of the flux. So you might even see it drip all over the place. There's one little drip. This cone is too tight. Now the brazed is thicker and smaller, so you think you force your heat on that, but you can't. You have to do this kind of even because the blade is so much bigger. It's a heat sink. It steals a lot of your heat, pulling it out all over the place. The brazed is so much smaller that it gets hot fast. So I'm kind of heating everything up equally. This is just a slow preheat. Getting all the water out, trying to be patient, fighting ADD urges. Hoping we're at 260. It seems a little high to me, but I bet it's fine. I'm getting a little slower, a little more purposeful about where I am. So we're going to stay in one spot. We'll come in here and tack it. Braze almost is starting to get cherry. Just a little bit red. Hopefully it might be starting to. In theory, the braze should act like an oven because the circle is wholly heated, so it should be hotter on the inside. It's just starting out here. It should be hot enough. Oh, I just put a little brass there and it just flowed everywhere. Nice little tack. Float halfway around from the other side. Bro, so aggressive. And how's the other side looking? I was afraid of it moving. This thing's tapped on two sides. It's not going anywhere now. Now I can come in here and add some brass, make some little fillets. Honestly, just barely running those little tacks that just swooped all the way around. Probably plenty strong. A little harder in here. It's hard to see, and the tool's in the way, so it's easy to get too hot. And then you try to get the flame out of the way, and you can't. It's even hotter. Try and be careful. That looks good. Feel little blobs when you move the flame around a little bit, and it'll sort of heat and flow out on its own. get out of your way. Like this side's a little cold spot, a little blob. Oh. Boom, that side's golden, the other side looks like it's right where I want it to be. Come over here to start on it. Nice, slow preheat. I am up so much higher than I thought it'd be. Sure did set this thing at 260. Sure am trying to trust it. Should have remeasured just for my peace of mind. It was all brazed on, it was way too high. I think it's right where it's supposed to be. I can see my little Sharpie line a little bit. It's pretty much there. And 260 is my center number for modern brakes. So I usually have, modern brakes have like 8 millimeters to travel. So if it's 2 millimeters too high, no problem. 3 millimeters too low, no problem. Vintage brakes with 0 adjustability to travel, it's a real big issue. You gotta check like 10 times. Like the new Raleigh brakes, they have to be like to the millimeter where you want them to be. They fit so bad and they're totally unadjustable and the pads are so fat. They really need to be done by someone who's done a bunch of brakes. You can't really start with the fanciest, hardest stuff just to burst your bubble. So you're going to start with some modern cheapy tech rows and stuff with a lot of adjustability, save your butt. And the brass follows the heat. So the brazing has had a big blob, and I just put the heat where I want that blob to go, and the blob has melted and went right there. No problem. So I'll save it all for the file. Move it around a little bit if you can. The heat. Always let gravity help. I think I got a little blob here. I might flip this fork upside down. Let gravity take it where I want it. Plus heat. Or maybe not. It looks pretty good. Maybe a little bit. Too much. Hard to tell with the dirty flux and heat and the mask and the fog, but it looks pretty good. I'll try to file them a little bit. I think I set the rear ones up like no file or barely file. Just a little bit. It looks good. I'm happy. Samus brass I use, this thing was probably that long, so I used a couple inches of brass tops. Brass is cheap. Brass flux is cheap. Brass is nice. It's easier to work with. You have to wear the dumb eye protection. You're really supposed to wear eye protection on the silver shoes. A lot less. So I'm gonna let this cool. Oh boy, big video. It's getting long. I've been editing it last night. All yesterday's footage. Trying to go pretty fast. So I got the fork here. I am sanding out. Look at this crack. I decided the crack is bad. I think it goes all the way through. Yeah. Down to the threads. I am gonna just clean this up a little bit. I'm gonna take the torch, see if we can melt all this grease out of here. I might scrub it first a little bit with a stainless brush and some degreaser, and then torch it. Then I brought my MiG welder over. I went to the hardware store, got a piece of, they didn't have 7/8, they had 3/4 copper. So split it, pinch it together a little bit, fit it in here like it's a quill stem, so I can have something to weld against. Because in theory, if this is touching nice and flat on the inside of this steer tube, that MIG weld is going to go down and stop against this copper. Not weld it to there, not let a bunch of weld fill up in here and have to spend hours grinding, in theory. And I got my portable stand set up, I got my MIG welder over, I'm going to clamp this fork in there, I'm going to go out and we're going to buzz. MIG welding's fun and weird. So I just run a long bead, it's going to warp stuff usually on thin metal. And this does feel pretty thin, hence the reason why it cracked. People always run their stems up too high and too tight. That cracks steers sometimes or bulges them. So I'm gonna go through and do a little bzzzt, and then I'm gonna skip down like an inch and do a bzzzt, and skip the middle and do a bzzzt, and just do like 1, 2, 3, 4, just back and forth, try not to put a whole bunch of heat. I'm just pull in the heat. And hopefully that'll solve all our problems. I'll clean up with the file a little bit, and probably end up running the fork die over it, chasing these threads. I mean, this one underneath this flat spot's all mangled anyways. So we will hit this dude and see if we can make this as good, if not better than new. So let's get started. Some bike wash for carbon frames. I don't know, it's a soap, it's a degreaser. I started using it because I got a bunch for free. I'm donating a case of this stuff to the CCC, and then they didn't really have much use for it. So they had it at the Sunday salvage sales for free, and I grabbed a couple. They had a whole case. I wish I grabbed them all. I kind of like it. Feels like it works about as good as Simple Green, and I'm not allergic to it like I'm Simple Green from all the years and years of letting it soak into my skin like a fool. Whatever, we're going to torch it too, and hopefully that'll burn any leftover grease off. Let it melt away. Get it real clean. It really wants to be clean where I'm welding. This doesn't matter too much. I want to get it kind of hot. I'm not trying to get cherry red, but you can see the dirt, debris, the paint is all flaking off. It doesn't like being burnt. Normally I do this outside because I don't want all these fumes in here. The door is open. Oh, that got hot. The door is open, and I got the other stuff set up outside already. I'm also going to make this crack bigger on purpose for the MIG welder. I'm going to take my Dremel, little cutoff wheel, and run it through that crack, basically making it a millimeter thick instead of crack, the actual hole all the way through that we can see and fully weld, and weld the light better, more fresh metal in there. In theory, I mean, this might not work. This might wreck the fork. Exciting life of a frame builder, yo. Very excite. It's not too hot. This is now opened up. The sander again. Make sure it's real clean. And we're gonna hit it with that MiG. Clean as I can get it. And we go into this little crack, just to make sure. Now this little piece of copper also needs to be cleaned. It's got sticker residue on it. But also it is 3/4, it's too fat. I'm gonna cut a split down the middle of this thing with that Dremel. So we can sort of crush and pinch it so it'll get all pinched on the top and wrap around, but still be nice and round on the bottom, and hopefully sit right up against the weld. And the crush might even make it act the way we want. I'm using the Dremel. I don't know why. It's being grumpy. It's not wanting to cut. I think maybe the natural copper acts as a bushing or a bearing. Maybe it's loading up. It's being a brat, and I have my hacksaw, and I'm better with the hacksaw anyway, so whatevs. Through in like 2 seconds. Right tool for the job. Now I just have to crush it. Just like that. I'm crushing it in to make it smaller so we can bend it. Bend it. Now in theory, I'm going to be able to slip fit this in. Still needs to be smaller. Smaller. You can see it's really overlaying itself, making it nice and small. That's what we want. I want it to be as tight of a fit as possible, and it is. And it's right up against where we're going to weld, all the gaps and weirdness on the other side. That looks pretty dang good. Let's MIG it up. I've got my trusty wire feed welder set up. It's a little Eastwood Big 90. Copper's already in here, so I can't really come on the outside and gauge this metal, but I can tell by looking that it is like extremely thin. I'm going to say 24 gauge is like the smallest. This will do maybe the 22 gauge, maybe somewhere right between. Inside this welder has a little gauge on here, a chart, It basically says almost the lowest voltage and wire speed. So I got it on almost. MIG welding has to have a clean ground onto the steel. So we got that going. What this wire is, this is the gun, you pull the trigger and shielding gas comes out and wire gets fed out. Let's see if it's tighter. Trim it flush, the nozzle, and we're gonna give it a little shot and see if it works. And I'm a little off. I'm gonna turn it up a little bit. So a little 1 second bubble. It's laying the bubble pretty high on there. Driving me nuts. Might try that. Basically, I'm just lining it up and trying to do it a full second, so I might not even need the face shield. But now the next thing, God, it really is filled up. I might turn it up some. Next thing, I'm going to grind all of this off. Look at the inside. There's probably going to be a few pinholes that really aren't overlapping, so there's going to be like holes in between them all. We'll do it one more time. It's pretty normal welding to try not to burn through stuff. Let's see if my theory worked. Theory, these pliers, I should be able to grab this piece of copper and it should move real easy. I shouldn't have put it in this far. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Well, let's go ahead and file this down. I could get the grinder out. It's so messy and dirty. I think it'll take like 2 seconds of the big file. See if we got any penetration. I was hoping this would go better. I was hoping it'd penetrate more, but I was really more afraid of burning holes in this thin steel. It might not be pinholes. We'll see. I was filing it, I started panicking. One, I suddenly got the brass to move. There's a little weld on the corner. I think if I file a little bit, it'll come right out. But I started panicking because I thought the crack was still there. I was like, what? And I realized it's because the balls are high. I'm filing a little bit lower, so I'm like lowered on one side, so it's just the edge of the weld. It look like a crack. But there's like 3 little spots. One I think might be a real pinhole all the way through, and the other 2 look like they might be. I'm not really sure. I don't want to stress out about it. I turned the welder up a little teeny tiny bit. I'm just gonna come hit these spots again and file them. I want this brass to move, but it won't. Just being all paranoid. A little bit of the weld, went off the corner and down to the brass. I'm wondering if it's just like pretending like it's stuck to it. Once I knock it out of the holes, now it should turn. Move, do something, not freak me out. Ah, yeah, it moves. Okay. Like, what if it's not real brass? What if it's brass colored steel? I know it's not. What if it's frozen in there forever and I'm boned? So I was run over and give this 1 or 2 more little teeny tiny tacks, and then a few more seconds of filing. Let's get a shot of where it is now. You can't even see the pinholes on camera. The metal looks nice. It looks thicker. We'll pull it out, we'll look at the inside, make sure a stem fit's not getting all scratched up. We'll call it good. Okay, I came and just blasted it in a couple spots that look like they're low spots. You can see these guys sit way lower. This looks way more nice and normal. I even go up a little bit more, but still fearful of burning through. So I'm just gonna file and clean these guys up real quick, get that brass out, look in the middle, and we'll see what we can see. If I can be patient enough for these to cool all the way down. I cannot. Whew. All right. Got this nice and flat, or pretty flat. I don't want to take any more metal off, but this is satisfying using my expanding pliers to to grab and twist. Oh yeah, that is nice and satisfying. There's no marks on here from the welder at all. I want to look on the insides. Well, the inside I can see more than I thought I would. Maybe the brass wasn't quite there. You see on the inside, you can almost kind of see some little raised bumps. Very minor. I'll sand them for a couple of seconds, maybe run a reamer through it, maybe. As long as it won't scratch up a stem. And clean this up just a little bit more, and then we will call it done. At least it's not giant, huge fat welds in there. And we'll clean it with this rat tail just a little bit. See what it looks like. Make sure we can't see the original crack at all. Make sure it's filled. I mean, it's better to have these slightly high than have them low and have the crack still there, the metal thin. Just let us know it's all full of new metal. Probably won't crack again. Don't run your stem up past the minimum safe line. Don't over tighten it, bro. Your stem should actually, if you grab the handlebars as hard as you can with your wheel, with your wheel between your knees, your bars just should move. It's so tight it won't move. It's too tight, it's damaging metal. It should move a little bit so if you get in a wreck or something, it'll move instead of bend your bars or break your brake levers or, cause your fork to crack. Bikes are made the way they're made for interesting reasons, originally. Not out of laziness, but out of performance and safety and interestingness. Here's a regular old quill stem. It's kind of beat up. No real fresh scratches. Oh, look at that. In and out, no problem. We don't have to go nuts. It's nice and loosey-goosey. There's really no fresh scratches. There's no point in taking that down anymore, running the reamer, doing anything. But I'm definitely going to run the rethreader on here just to make sure these are all clean, make sure stuff will go right over. You can definitely see there's a little bit of high spot in the weld right there. Let's take it out. This is the crack cutter, unless they did something weird and made this Raleigh French or something horrible and annoying. Seems about right. Let's need some oil. Dump it on all these cutting teeth. Dump it down the valley below so it'll come out. There we go. Oil, 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 oil. We started it nice and gentle. These things will start crooked and just destroy your fork, and it'll seem fine until you get down like an inch and it's all grinding to the side. As you go around, you go back to knock any burrs off. And we're going to go down until we've got all of these threads poking out. I might even cut a fresh thread, just to make sure. We're definitely all the way down. I'm definitely cutting a new thread now. So this is farther than any cup would ever be. I'm going to call that good. Even though I'm coming off and it's easy, I want to make sure there's no chips. Drag chips into those teeth. We want to just burr them in there and mangle the teeth and cause ourselves some problems. I don't want to bugger up on the very top as the last thread comes off, so being careful. Gentle. Beauty. I will say, better than new. It's nice and flat, metal's thicker, dye's gone over it, stem can go in and out, everything's flat, everything's pretty. Saved this fork and did something I've never done before. It was scary, but it was fun. All I gotta do now is soak off this flux on these candy bosses and clean them up. I look at the frame, I think I filled a little dent that I haven't cleaned up yet and seen how it is. I'll make sure there's nothing else left on that. I'll check back in when that's done and put this thing up for sale. Everyone want to buy this thing? It's cool now. Okay, that is it. I stayed late. I got this dude done. Candy bosses cleaned up. Got this guy all filed down and flush. A little doodadder so you can use any drop or any derailleur you want, so just a Hooray derailleur. This dent filled. This little reinforcement on the seat stay. Seat tube bosses. I drilled and tapped and mounted a brand new Shimano under guide, cable guide. We finished lining the fork, brazed on for 650B candy bosses. Filled in this little dent and got it all smoothed out. Technically, this bike is done. It is up for sale. I'm going to ask $500 for it. Is that crazy? Yeah, $500. I asked $500 for it, and whoever wants to buy it, I'm willing to do some additional braze-ons if they want. I usually do like a seat stay mounted pump peg, so you have like a spring-loaded pump tucked into the dropout and into the peg. I love doing that. I don't have any right now. The Topeak ones are my favorite. I heard they stopped making them. I heard they are making them again. You can get them. Usually the small or medium fits pretty well. I'd be willing to pop in like a water bottle boss for a fender mount here and here. This thing has no bottle bosses here and here. I'd be willing to pop in a couple sets of bottle bosses for that price. If you want to have one or two or maybe even three, we might start getting up into a higher price. But at $5, I'd be willing to do at least two. Some fender ones and a pump peg if you want. I'd be going $550 if you want to go third set. That is it. This thing clearly fits 650B by 42s, no issues. It's a little tight down here. We did do a big dimple in here. If it was dimpled 2 or 3 more millimeters, it'd be better. But it's tight enough that if your wheel's true and 650B and 42, you're not going to be rubbing anywhere. You'll be able to stick a fender in here. Yeah, normal cable routing. What else is it? Oh, I measured it. It measures from the center to the top of the tube right here. It is 60 centimeters. Top tube is 57 centimeters. I respaced the rear end to 130, so it's gonna take a modern-ish road wheel, anywhere from the mid-80s all the way until through axles were invented. Or disc brake stuff, like no through axles, no disc brake stuff. But 130 rear spacing, 650B 42s, reinforced, cleaned up. I'm calling it my 650 beater. It does have a few little dings and dents everywhere, and someone clamped a kickstand on, so it's a little smushed and gushed, and some dings. But I got the 2 big dings out and all that stuff. It is cool to be a really fun city bike to build as a rando or as like a uprighty porteur, front basket, front rack kind of bike. It can be fun to take on short, trips around the city or even medium-ish rides, 100-mile rides and a loop around town, like as a rando-y bike. It's old, it's from '73, it's older than I am, it's had miles, it's had repairs. I don't know if I trust it, taking a Paris Press Paris, but honestly, it'd probably be fine. The last bike I built as a beater bike for around my neighborhood was a Peugeot PX10, and the kid who bought it from me immediately, all beat up and done up with single speed and cruiser bars or whatever, and he immediately took it on the Seattle to Portland ride for just a couple 100 miles in one day. And he loved it. He said he was riding the crap out of it. His girlfriend's got a matching kind of cheapy Peugeot, and he got it to something fun to ride with her. So, fun stuff. It's got the Raleigh head badge, has been taken off and re-riveted on. It's going to be taken off and riveted on again. And this bike looks good, man. Look at these little canti bosses sticking out. It could easily be ridden as is, and let these things lightly rust, or just hit it with some rattle can. The last one we did James's Evil Twin. It was a black Raleigh Competition, and he had a really nice JP Weigel modified, repainted one. So we basically cloned that bike, did all these same mods, and we just hit it with some rattle can, some gloss black rattle cans. Crappy out in front of the shop one day, and rode like that for years, and you couldn't tell, it looked great. Or you get a new powder coat or a new paint job. The chrome is totally good and savable from like here down. I would do like a little V in the chrome and tape it off, and save it all from there down and do something fancy and cool. So this is a cool bike. If you're interested, hit me up on YouTube or email me at StarMichaelBuilds or email me through our website or Instagram, whatever, man. Check it out. And yeah, I would do a few more mods at that price. Some little stuff. No problemos. It's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. I like that I saved the fork. It's pretty fun. Nice and wide in the front. You can do 650B 42s. Fit a fender. No problemo. Super fun bike. Cool hooray dropouts. Good chrome. So that might be the end, or maybe whoever buys will have me do some more mods. I'll do another short video or something. Who knows? Anyways, thanks for watching.